Bonjour tout le monde, this is Gwen Lafage and I'm excited to be a part of Humans of Telecom.
Hey everyone, a very warm welcome to Humans of Telecom, the Unplugged podcast. This is your host Anurag Aggarwal, Chief Growth Officer at Globe Teleservices. As most of you know by now, this podcast takes you behind the scenes of the fast-paced world of telecom and showcases the human side of some of the most well-known individuals within the space. It has hosted guests from all walks of life and from all geographies around the world. And our guest today is a remarkable personality. With over 2 decades of marketing expertise, she has not only honed her skills in the dynamic world of marketing, but has also made an indelible mark in our CPaaS space by becoming a part of our community a little over 2 years ago. What's more, her remarkable content and insightful articles have recently earned her the title Top Brand Strategy Voice by LinkedIn also. So, get ready to be inspired and informed as we dive into a conversation with the amazing Gwen Lafage, Vice President Marketing, Global Brand and Content at Sinch. Gwen, welcome to the show. Thank you so much for agreeing to be a part of this journey. We'd love to hear more about you. Which part of the world do you belong to? And from where are you joining this podcast today?
Hi, and very excited to join you today on this discussion. I'm originally from France and I'm joining you today from Atlanta in the US.
Wonderful, Gwen. It's lovely to have you on the show. So, a lady from France who's now based in the US, I'm sure there's a lot which has transpired in this entire geographical shift. So, let's start by hearing about Gwen's journey. How did you start your career? I'm guessing in France, maybe. And how has the journey been so far? How did you move around? Have you only moved from France to the US, or there are other parts of the world you've been a part of? And how did you wind up in the world of telecom? So, let's hear Gwen's story.
Thanks. So yes, as you said, a lot of this journey took me a lot of different places. I actually started my career in London, so in the UK, right after school. I went there and then worked in Paris before decided to move to the US and ended up in San Francisco. My career started in advertising agencies and creative agencies. And when I moved to San Francisco, I worked for a B2B tech agency, working with a lot of tech clients in various industries, SaaS and telecom. So I will say that's kind of like how it started. And then I moved to Sweden to start the European office of our B2B tech agency. And then made the move to Sinch about 2.5 years ago. So that's, I guess, how I ended up in telecom, although I don't know if I see myself so much in telecom, but definitely in communications.
And how have you found the journey so far in Sinch? It's a very exciting and dynamic organization to be a part of. So, how have you found this as compared to your other stints in other industries? How do you like our world of CPaaS?
It's been amazing. It's been really fascinating journey. I joined Sinch, so in Sweden, and we were maybe a company of like 500 people. And that first year when I joined, we acquired 4 pretty large companies all over the world. Previous year, we had also acquired a lot of other companies and also had a really good organic growth. So it's been a rocket ship. Today we have more than 4,000 people in more than 60 countries. So it's been fascinating to be part of this journey, and the opportunities that CPaaS represent are mind blowing, right? Like I think we're still kind of at the beginning of the maturity of the industry in a way, right? Like so this everything still has to be done and discovered. So it's really, fascinating and exciting to be part of this ride.
I think you described Cinch as a rocket ship, and I think that's quite the perfect term which one can use for this organization. And it's interesting that you got to be a part of this consolidation journey which the industry is seeing. So, yes, the industry is going through so many changes, and companies such as Cinch are actually at the forefront of it. So, it's great to see that you're enjoying your journey so far. And within this long journey overall, whether in Cinch or even outside, if I ask you for one moment, which is a very memorable or impactful moment in your career, what would that moment be?
Um, that's a good question. I'll say maybe I'll answer with two, if that's okay. I think like one of the really fascinating moment at Sinch, like that was quite impactful for me, was after acquiring so many different companies and I guess expanding our portfolio and our geographical reach, we really needed to redefine who we are as a company. And we did a lot of work on our positioning. And last year, I was part of the team who presented internally to the 4,000 people in the company this new positioning, and us being the customer communications cloud, so the one partner for all communication needs, and try to like present this in front of the entire company. It was a virtual event, but live. And that was definitely a great moment. And at about the same time last year, I was still in Sweden, moving into right before I moved to the US. I was also invited to took to a tech event called Break It in Sweden in front of 400 people live on stage. And that was also fascinating. So I guess the two moments were really speaking in front of audiences. I learned, I guess, recently that I really enjoy that. And it's quite an exciting moment in a career.
Yeah, and I guess public speaking is something which can be either very exciting or equally frightening as well for certain people. So I'm glad you tilt on the side where you are really enjoying and getting charged up by these experiences. Wonderful.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, not saying that I'm not frightened by it. I think that's the excitement of it, right? Like that's the thrill of it, both the fear and the excitement at the same time, and the I guess the feeling of accomplishment after it is definitely something that is great to experience.
Right. I'd recently heard in another podcast, in fact, that at some point of time, a bunch of professional athletes were asked just before they began their race that, how are you feeling? And some said that they were nervous, and some said they were excited. And eventually, it was seen that the ones who felt excited about the challenge were the ones who eventually turned out to be the winners on the top. So I think it's amazing the attitude that you're showing, and hats off to you on that.
Thank you.
All right. And on that note, we move to our second section, the human side. So, firstly, Gwen, I think since you've anyways joined the industry not long ago, I think this question should be quite interesting for all of us. So, if there is one thing shocking or unknown about Gwen that we don't know, what would that one thing be?
I will say that I'm quite an open book, right? Like I was thinking about this, and I'm not sure if there's anything that shocking about me. Maybe a fun fact that is like on the human side, right? Like I eat dark chocolate every single day, probably like half a bar on average, and like that's something I don't know that maybe I don't share about. It's just a really small fun fact.
Interesting. And I think they say chocolate has its own benefits as well. And maybe
Yes.
that in some ways helping fuel your creative insights as well. Amazing.
Maybe.
All right. And if I ask you another question in the same light about what do you do to recharge yourself? What's your passion? So I know for a fact that marketing and content creation is something that you're doing. But over and above that, if there is one thing which Gwen is really passionate about, what would that thing be?
I wouldn't say that I have a one passion, but I definitely do a lot of different things to recharge. I did discover during the pandemic that I became kind of a plants person, which I really wasn't before. I've killed many plants in the past, but I think like during the pandemic, I guess I started to kind of buy plants and take care of like in-house indoor plants, and now I have a handful. So that's definitely something that I do when I need to like empty my head and be like, okay, I'm just going to go around the house and water my plants. Otherwise, I go to the gym very regularly, and I also love playing board game with my kids. My son loves it. It's been quite interesting. We started like this Monopoly game a couple of days ago, and then every morning when he wakes up, he's like, "Can we play Monopoly? Can we play Monopoly?" I was like, "Okay, not in the morning, but we can take it up again when you come back from school. So I think like spending a lot of time with my family, I think is also how I recharge and try to disconnect from my day job and my marketing passion. And like you said, I guess I'm a bit of a marketing and content nerd. So that does eat up a lot of my time. And I try to spend the rest of the time a lot with my family.
Amazing. And I think both the aspects which you mentioned, spending time with family and even nurturing plants, I think these are amazing ways in which we can switch off from the mundane life of our work. Though I'm guessing your life is not very mundane because marketing, especially, has so much of action happening all the time. But for sure, these passions of gardening or taking care of plants and, of course, spending time with family, they're amazing ones to switch our minds off work and recharge us.
Yes, 100%. And I think it's like this. There's also, I think, a part of the what I do from a marketing and contents perspective, or spending time on LinkedIn, or reading about marketing, and are linked to the work, but maybe not the day to day work job, right? And I think that's also something that I spend a lot of time on, and I think it's important to find that balance with activity that has nothing to do with marketing. So that's how I try to balance it.
Wonderful. All right, Gwen, we now move to two games, which are relatively the more interesting part of this conversation. In the first one, I'm going to be putting up 5 words to you and ask you to tell the first thing that comes to your mind. So, are you ready for that?
Yes. Shoot.
All right. So, firstly, the overall industry that you entered into, telecom.
Um, Telecom. So I'll say communications, the ability to communicate, talking to my family on WhatsApp. That's what comes to mind.
Perfect. The second one, zeroing into the exact industry you're in, CPaaS.
Um, Opportunities and connections. I'll say connections and customer experience.
Absolutely. I think customer experience today is at the forefront. In fact, there's a new term which has started coming about, CXAAS. I don't even know how to pronounce it, CXAS maybe, but it's all about customer experience as a service. So,
Right.
yeah, very rightly said. All right. All right. The third one, something you touched upon just now, family.
Um, Love, I guess, and the most important thing.
All right. And the other side of the same coin, career.
Growth and fulfillment.
All right. And the final word where we are today, podcast.
Meeting great people and having amazing conversations. I'm a big fan of podcasts in all its form. I think it's I love listening to them, and I also like participating and meeting new people that way.
Wonderful. So I'm guessing this is not your first rodeo. You've been featured as a guest on other podcasts as well.
Yes, but I often talk about marketing and brand, so I think that's quite interesting to actually show a different side and have this more maybe personal discussions. Haven't done many of those.
Right. And that's exactly the intent. I mean, there's so much that we already talk about our work and overall about our occupation. So the intent is to sort of let your hair down and talk about something else. All right. And on that note, the second game, which is even more interesting. So I'm going to ask you to tell us 3 statements. Two of them have to be truths, one of them has to be a lie. But I'm expecting that Gwen has got 3 very exciting statements, and all 3 of you appear to be truths and all 3 appear to be lies. So, would you have 3 such statements for us today?
I do actually. So, want me to tell you the three statements?
Absolutely.
So, you're gonna guess which one is the lie, or
I will try to. At times my guests play a very smart one on me and they get away by, making the lie sound so convincingly truthful. And some of the truths actually they make it sound like a lie. So I've often been losing, but over the last couple of episodes, I think I've been improving. So I hope to get it right with you.
let's give it a try. Okay, so I traveled around the world with a backpack for a year. I majored in medieval English literature in college, and I owned an art gallery in San Francisco.
All three are equally exciting and typical Gwen, which I can think of. So, I would say that all three are truth. But let me give it a shot. So, Gwen, whatever I've had conversations with you, I totally feel that you could have been a backpacker around the world. So, I'll go with that one being a truth. Also, given your creative flair, I would like to take a chance and presume you have an art gallery in San Francisco. So, I'll say that's also a truth. And medieval English literature, which something, by the way, is of great interest to me. So, we're talking about things like Shakespeare and all, I guess, right?
Well, you tell me.
All right. I am going to take a chance and say that possibly that's a lie, but all three seem to be such interesting conversations. I'd love to dive deeper into them once we figure out which one is the truth, which one is a lie. But I'll take a chance and say that the second one is a lie and the first and the third one are truths. So, am I right here?
Yes, you are correct. I did
All
not
right.
study English literature in college. But I did
Interesting.
travel and had an art gallery in San Francisco. So you're 100% correct.
Awesome. So, I'm getting better at this game. So let's hear a bit more about this. Can you tell us something interesting about what made you get onto this backpacking journey and how was that experience? And then the second one, we'd love to know more about your art gallery as well.
Yeah. So when I was in my late 20s and I had already started working in advertising in Paris. So I'd already worked in London and I'd worked in Paris, had put aside some money. And at that point, I think I realized was my husband, was my, I guess, boyfriend at the time. We were not married yet. We were thinking maybe of moving to the US. And then after starting to plan that move, we realized that what we really wanted was actually to take a year off. So I think what was interesting is a lot of people backpack around the world after college, right? Like we were kind of a little bit of on the late side and we were also a couple. So that was quite fascinating. And we took this trip around the world for 13 months and visited some fabulous countries along the way, had amazing experiences. I think that will probably qualified as one of the best part of my life still to this day. So yes, that was 100% the truth.
Interesting.
Yeah. And then I guess the art gallery part. So that's another interesting side, I guess, of my life. At some point, I decided I wanted to take a break from working in agencies. Actually, I was thinking I will never ever work in an agency again. I just like wanted to do something else. And I've always been really passionate about photography. And I was an amateur photographer at that time myself, but also really wanted to showcase artists from all around the world. And when we moved to San Francisco with my husband, I decided that I was going to try it out. And I opened a virtual, like an online shop, as well as a physical gallery in San Francisco. And I did that for a few years, represented artists from everywhere. And it was an art gallery and art bookshop, which was a really interesting part of my life that I definitely don't regret 1 minute. But at some point, I went back to marketing. So we are, but it was definitely a great time as well.
Amazing. Yeah, I can imagine that it would be a very interesting and a different experience. And I think these different experiences actually shape us and who we are overall as a person. So hats off to you on that. All right. And on that note, Gwen, we now come to our final section, our sign off section. So, two quick questions here. So, firstly, I don't know, Gwen, whether you are attending conferences or not, but if somebody wants to reach out to Gwen or get to meet Gwen, what's the best way to reach out and meet Gwen at some point of time?
So between now and the end of the year, I don't have plans for some conferences, but I do try to network here locally in Atlanta right now. I'm sure I will have new conferences coming up, and there's a few in our industry at the beginning of next year that I'm not sure yet if I will attend. But between MWC in Barcelona and Enterprise Connect, I might join some of these. Otherwise, the best way to reach out and get to meet me is on LinkedIn. I'm fairly active. I'm pretty responsive, and you'll see that I post and definitely answer to people who reach out. I think that's the beauty of LinkedIn and the ability to build a fantastic network there. So LinkedIn, message me. That's where you can reach out.
Wonderful. And our final question, our signature question: what does being human mean to you? What sort of a human being would you want the world to remember you as?
Um, I will say it's the ability to connect with others and help each other in building something good together. I think being human is that, right? Like coming up through who we are, this authenticity aspect, and being aware of like others and connecting with them, building those relationships. I think that's what it's about. What sort of human being I want to be and remember by? I think someone kind, with energy, someone that want to move things and shake things up, a change maker maybe, and someone that would be maybe fun to be around, someone ready to like help each other and care about others. I guess that's something that matters as well to me.
Wonderful, Gwen. I think that's a wonderful thought. And I think from whatever little that I've interacted with you, I think these attributes are quite well associated with you. So I think you're doing a great job.
Thank you. I try.
Awesome. And on that note, Gwen, thank you so much. It was a wonderful conversation, though we've never met. But I think in this entire conversation, there was never that feeling as if we are speaking for the first time. So I must say that I think you're doing a fantastic job, and keep up the awesome content which we keep seeing. I'm sure that more and more people are getting inspired by your creativity and the things which you keep sharing with all of us. And I do hope at some point of time our paths cross as well. So thanks a lot.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. And same, I'm sure we'll end up meeting right in one of those industry event coming up.
I hope so too, Gwen. All right. And on that note, thanks a lot. And as always, to our wonderful listeners here, thanks for tuning into the show. We hope this episode gave you a good glimpse of the human side of Gwen Lafage, a French origin marketing aficionado who has traveled the world and is now creating ripples in the CPaaS space. Someone who loves a dark chocolate and also knows how to strike the right balance between a work life and a time with a family and a love for plants. An adventure seeker who has backpacked around the world with a partner. And finally, someone who is open to experimentation and has even channelized her creative flair into dabbling in the world of art and having her own gallery in San Francisco. That for us is Gwen Lafage. So, if you enjoyed today's episode, do stay tuned in, because we shall soon be releasing yet another episode and another compelling story from the telecom space. And do follow the podcast on your preferred streaming channel. On behalf of Humans of Telecom, this is your host Anurag Aggarwal signing off for now. Take care.